The northern portion of Noto Peninsula, which is a part of Ishikawa Prefecture in central Japan, projects into the sea. Low mountains and hills stretch close to the coastline. Here, where the sea and mountains meet, people have lived in harmony with the landscape, depending on both agriculture and fishing for their livelihoods. Agriculture, forestry, and fisheries have brought many bounties. Traditions have been preserved and passed down over the ages. A beautiful landscape with a diverse ecosystem. Here, human intervention has preserved a natural environment and a sound ecosystem, and people's enriched lives continue to be maintained. Human activities in harmony with nature can be found at Japan's rural communities. Today, they are drawing attention for the clues they offer on how environmental conservation can be balanced with human existence. People's lives and livelihoods are deeply rooted in the environment, while unspoiled landscapes have been nurtured through coexistence with nature. Let's look at the modern clues offered by the traditional lifestyles of people living in harmony with nature along the coast of Japan. Shiroyone Senmaida in Wajima City is located in northern Noto Peninsula. There are 1,004 terraced rice paddies here, hugging a steep slope facing the Sea of Japan. Utilizing every inch of available land, the rice paddies are too small for the use of modern farming equipment. Everything is done by hand. To maintain the scenery, paddies that local farmers can no longer maintain continue to be farmed by volunteers and preservation societies. Village environments, formed and maintained through centuries of use in farming and forestry, and the secondary forests, farmlands, and ponds that surround them are known as Satoyama. Such human coexistence with nature can also be found in coastal regions and is known as Satoumi. Satoumi comprises coastal villages and the surrounding ecosystem, including rocky shores, beaches, tidal flats, coral reefs, and seagrass beds. Continued management by local communities ensures high-level productivity as well as the preservation of biodiversity. Satoyama and Satoumi have been formed through a long history of people living with nature. Satoumi is a concept that originated in Japan. It is a socio-ecological system woven by people and nature. People's lives and the natural environment that surround them interact with each other. Both can be enriched and coexist if harmony can be properly maintained.
Satoumi is a Japanese term that's made out of two Japanese characters, Sato, which means villages, and Umi, which means sea. So put together, they actually mean coastal seascapes where people live and their lives are dependent on the sea.
Ms. Yvonne Yu is a Singaporean researcher who has conducted studies of Satoumi all over the world. For many years, she has carried out research on the sustainable use of Satoyama and Satoumi resources in Noto, speaking out about their importance.
Central to the concept of Satoumi is the understanding that the land and the sea are connected. Because the nutrients, minerals, and planktons from the land are washed and brought to the sea through the rivers and by the rainwater. And these materials nourish the marine environment. But at the same time, if we don't keep our land clean and healthy, we will end up polluting the sea. So understanding this land and sea connection of Satoumi is very important.
Bountiful ecosystems are formed in coastal areas where the land and sea connect. The benefits these ecosystems bring to people are called ecosystem services. Satoumi broadly provides 3 ecosystem services to people. Provisioning services supply food and goods that benefit people, including fish, shellfish, and sea salt. Regulating services moderate the impact of natural phenomena to secure environmental stability and protect people's lives. For example, coral reefs and mangroves help mitigate natural disasters. Cultural services are the variety of non-material benefits that people receive from the ecosystem. They include spiritual enrichment, recreation, and tourism. The benefits of the ecosystem services brought about by Satoumi create a diverse community in harmony with the environment, which has characterized Japan's coastal communities. In recent years, however, coastal development has severed the material cycle. Various concerns are arising even in Japan, including a weakening connection between people and the sea. To create healthy habitats for diverse organisms and give human access to the bounties of the sea into the future, the fisheries sector, local communities, private companies, and governments are working together to improve the marine environment. They are undertaking Satoumi co-creation to protect abundant sea life. Satoumi co-creation is aiming for a clean, bountiful sea and human well-being derived from the benefits of the sea. Various initiatives are being undertaken to promote Satoumi co-creation in order to achieve these aims. They include the rehabilitation of important habitats for marine life, such as the planting of corals and restoration of seagrass beds damaged by environmental change. Responsible fishing and the proper management of marine resources are being promoted through such measures as closed seasons for fishing and size regulations for fish. Initiatives to regulate and restore coastal ecosystems by controlling the outbreak of crown-of-thorns starfish in coral reefs and removing excess sea urchin from deserted seaweed habitats. Initiatives to promote a sound material cycle include measures to control the inflow of land-based pollutants, as well as upstream tree planting activities. And initiatives to boost people's interest in the sea by creating opportunities to interact with the sea and sharing the culture of the sea as a place for recreation, learning, and relaxation. Satoumi co-creation is multifaceted. Initiatives must be selected according to the local environment and the socio-cultural background of the population. This is Nanao Bay, one of Noto Peninsula's Satoumi. Nanao Bay is a semi-enclosed coastal area. There is little impact of wind and waves, and the year-round calm sea makes it ideal for oyster farming. Mr. Yamada Shingo operates an oyster farm. He is a young fisher who took over the farming business from a retiring fisher 3 years ago.
この七尾湾は里山の方から栄養の入った川の水が流れ出てますんで、なのでやっぱりその分美味しい牡蠣がやっぱ育つんじゃないかなと思います。やっぱり山と海は切り離せないものですね。
The oysters do not require any artificial feeding. They thrive on naturally occurring plankton and enable fishers to earn a stable income without placing a major burden on the environment. To create an optimal environment for oyster farming, fishers engage in various activities to protect the Satoyama and Satoumi.
こう牡蠣業者が出資してできた牡蠣貝の殻を剥いた殻を処理する共同処理施設があるんですけど、そこでその処理をした牡蠣の殻を畑にまく肥料だったりだとか、魚が来るように魚礁を作ってそれを海に沈めて、魚がやっぱりたくさんまた来るようなそういう活動もしていますね。この能登の海で美味しい牡蠣を作って、皆さんに届けられるように、頑張っていきたいなと思います。
At Nanao Bay, community groups and high school students are involved in the preservation of seagrass beds, also known as the cradle of the sea. Home to and spawning ground of sea creatures, seagrass beds play an important role in water purification. They absorb nitrogen, phosphorus, and carbon dioxide and supply oxygen. Meanwhile, in Wajima, which faces the Sea of Japan, fishing by female divers known as ama has a history of about 400 years. Women freedive to collect abalone, turban shells, and seaweed. Fishing is limited to a depth where a person can freedive. This prevents overexploitation. The ama have also established their own rules to ensure the sustainable use of Satoumi resources.
ばあちゃんも母親もで妹も海してるんですけど、自然と中学卒業して自然と海漁に入ったっていう感じですね。昔はもう海になるのが自然ともう当たり前。
アワビにも10センチのこんな刺しみたいなのがあって、それから外れる10センチにならないやつはもう取ってはいけないので、サザエもこんな通常のやつが3種大中小とかであって、そこに入れて通るやつは一番小さいのに通るやつは取ってはいけないとか決めて、
期間ももう3ヶ月、サザエアワビの漁の期間は3ヶ月、7、8、9の3ヶ月しか取れない。あとはもう禁止。規律として決められとるし、もし例えばアワビのこの10センチ以下の規格外のものを取って、役員でも誰でも見つかったとすると、もうその年の漁業権は取り上げられる。そこまで厳しく
営業停止ですね。
営業停止。
The wisdom of ama divers, who use the Satoumi wisely while also preserving them, has been passed down from mothers to daughters through the generations. That is why ama fishing has continued for about 400 years.
この海女としてのプライドもあるし、これからずっと旦那もずっと漁師、こっちも漁師やし私も漁師やし、海に携わって生きていくことが当たり前なんで、収入が少なくなろうとどうしようと、ずっと体が動かなくなるまで この商売を多分余りをしていると思います。
I think that many Satoumi-like places in the world are facing the same problem. For example, pollution and climate change pressures. People are all finding solutions to solve all these problems. And most of the time we depend on new technology, new science to look for the solutions. But actually solutions maybe we can actually find these solutions in the local and traditional knowledge of the people. Because these people living with the sea have been living here for generations. They know their seas best. And I feel that only with traditional and local knowledge as the foundations can then modern science be able to find really suitable solutions for the communities. I think the rustic lifestyle of the Noto people is why they're so successful in keeping their Satoyama and Satoumi. They have not really changed their lifestyle so much over the years. And I think that is the value that we should relook at our way of life. Satoumi is a Japanese term, but it's not a concept that's only unique to Japan. I think it is prevalent in all parts of the world, as long as they have a sea and as long as there's a fishing community. So Satoumi concept is really a concept that is applicable everywhere. So as long as you recognize that it's important to conserve your coastal environment, so as long as you recognize the land and sea connection, and so as long as you recognize the importance of valuing the traditional culture and knowledge of the local people, you would have a Satoumi.
The important elements for effective Satoumi co-creation are leadership by local communities and constructing a framework for various stakeholders to work in collaboration. Also indispensable is policy support from national or local governments that will guide and support Satoumi co-creation. In 2011, Noto's Satoyama and Satoumi became the first sites in Japan to be designated by the FAO as globally important agricultural heritage systems, GIAS. GIAS is an international initiative that endeavors to preserve, as legacies for the future, globally important traditional agricultural and fisheries systems that are gradually disappearing amid modernization.
その私どもの思いとしては、その世界農業遺産の申請認定というのをその能登地域の能登の活性化の起爆剤にしたいという思いがあって、申請をしたというところがあるんですが。
Ishikawa Prefecture has been promoting Satoyama and Satoumi co-creation through various policies. The Satoyama Promotion Office has played a pivotal role in promoting vitalization and socio-economic development of rural communities.
やはりその里山里海振興を図っていく上では、そこで要は暮らし続けられる、いわゆる仕事なりわいであったりですとか、あとはその地域の社会を維持できるような、地域づくり、そういったそのなりわいづくりと地域づくりのその両面をちょっと進めていくことがやはり重要なんじゃないかということで。行政のやはりできることっていうのはやはりその地元の皆様のその取り組みというのをやっぱり後押ししていくと、この地域を何とかしていこうっていうやはりそういう取り組みをしてくれる人をいかに増やしていくか。石川県と地元の金融機関で資金を拠出してファンドを作ってまして、石川里山振興ファンドというんですけれども、そのファンドの運用益を活用して、例えばその販路開拓ですとか。あともっと前の段階で言えばその商品開発、というようなものも支援しています。あと地域でまずその取り組まれる方っていうのはいらっしゃるんですけれども、やはりどうしてもそこの地域だけだとどうしても長続きやはりしないっていうところがあると思うんですよね。なのでやっぱりその例えば同じような取り組みをしている人たちをつないであげるだとか、まさにそういうところが行政もできる役割なんじゃないかなというふうに思います。
To enable the sustainable implementation of Satoumi co-creation, it is also important to nurture people who are highly motivated to protect the environment and to initiate locally based economic activities. Increasing the understanding and interest of the community leads to expansion of the circle of Satoumi co-creation. Medium to long-term activity plans are formulated to serve as a shared philosophy for Satoumi co-creation, including the aim and type of activities to be undertaken. An important element of the plan is to survey the state of the area to enable an accurate recognition of the current situation of the activity setting. Activity effectiveness can be further enhanced by fine-tuned zoning according to ecosystem functions and utilization purposes. Marine protected areas are important measures for conservation of the marine environment. They are consistent with the concept of Satoumi. For example, while preserving the core area of a marine ecosystem as a no-take zone under strict rules, surrounding areas can be designated as buffer zones, where use without resource consumption is permitted, or as transition areas, where the responsible use of resources is carried out. This enables a balance between ecosystem conservation and sustainable economic activities. As we have seen, cooperation among various stakeholders, setting objectives based on the local environment and wishes of communities, and formulating work plans lead to a good foundation of Satoumi co-creation that enables sustainable efforts. Onna village in Okinawa Prefecture is located at around the center of the main island of Okinawa. A Satoumi village rich in nature, it has a long coastline and extensive coral reefs against a backdrop of mountains. This village of some 10,000 residents is visited by about 2 million tourists each year. It is known as a leading resort area in Japan. It also has an active fisheries sector focused around seaweed farming, which has low environmental impact. The production of seaweed, including mozuku and sea grapes, is one of the village's core businesses. Mr. Higa Yoshimi is the executive manager of the Onna Village Fisheries Cooperative. For many years, Mr. Higa has led initiatives to hand this Satoumi down to the next generation.
いいもずく作るためにはやっぱりいい環境がないといけないという、そこで環境が一番、砂浜があって砂礫があって海草があってで浜サンゴというこの場所それぞれの環境がないと作れないという、きれいな実があって初めてできると。
In Okinawa, coral reefs are one of the most important ecosystems in terms of both biodiversity and fishery resource management. However, pollution caused by red soil runoff and repeated outbreaks of crown-of-thorns starfish, which decimate corals, are dramatically changing conditions surrounding coral reefs. The Fisheries Cooperative has tenaciously pursued efforts to protect the coral. In recent years, increases in seawater temperatures caused by climate change and frequent occurrences of large-scale coral bleaching have killed off much of the coral.
あの時はですね、春先から水温が高かったんですよ、例年より。でだんだん高くなってきて、で7月までずっと台風来なくてですね、8月前かな。でお湯みたいに熱くなって近くは35度とかなってですね、でこれで海藻が死んで、で生き き物が死んでなんか生ぬるいというか、それで牛乳混ぜたような濁った海みたいになって、でサンゴが死んで、もずくはもう不作、大不作ですね。400トンから500トン取っていたもずくはあの時49トンでしたかね。やっぱりサンゴがないともずくも海の漁業も困りますけども、もう一つも観光も困るというのがあるし、一番困るのはやっぱりプライドが傷つくっていうのか、海が守ってないって、守りきれないってないのがちょっと、せっかく自分たちがやってる海、観光客が来る海がちゃんと見せられないっていうのはちょっとね、心が傷つく、ちょっとねつまんない。
In the face of this coral reef crisis, the Onna Village Fisheries Cooperative set coral restoration and conservation as its most urgent task and started researching coral farming techniques. Mr. Mekaru Munekazu played a central role in coral farming. Mr. Mekaru has a wealth of experience in the fisheries sector, including establishing techniques for the land-based farming of sea grape seaweed.
どういうふうな養殖のこのつけ方も知らないもんで、初めはビスにつけてみたり、穴を開けてビスでしたら根張っていくんですけど、小さいサンゴですから魚がつつくんですよね。つついたらポキッと折れて、もうそれが失敗の繰り返しで、養殖なんかこれは無理だろうというふうな話はあったけどね。
After repeated trial and error, he succeeded in developing his own unique method of coral cultivation and planting. Collected coral fragments are cultivated on land and then used for farming and planting in the sea. For farming in the sea, he devised a method borrowed from Mozoku seaweed farming that uses vertical pipes. The pipes were set on the sea floor and the cultivated coral attached to them. Coral growth is very fast using this method. They grow to adult coral in about 3 years, which enables a supply of coral larvae to neighboring sea areas. With assistance from Okinawa Prefecture, Onna Village has planted 120,000 coral to date in a sea area of 3 hectares. In addition to asexual reproduction that creates clones, they are also developing a sexual reproduction method that contributes to preserving the genetic diversity of coral reefs.
こっちの湾の中で天然のサンゴを発火したんですけど、うちの日々立て養殖のサンゴは発火しませんでしたよ。生き残ってるのは強いサンゴなんだから。その強いサンゴをいかに、小さい株なんだけど、これを今育てて広げてるわけです。自然任せという風になると、本当にじゃあ復活するまで10年。じゃあその10年の間の若い連中はどう見るの？でまた10年。それの繰り返しだったらいいサンゴが見れませんよ。人の手も加えながらこうにやっていかないと絶対豊かな海に多分なれないと思います。
The Onna Village Fisheries Revitalization Plan, formulated jointly by the Onna Fisheries Cooperative and village authorities, supported these fisher efforts. This plan articulates the specific directions of community-based fisheries development. Efforts are also being made towards fostering human resources to ensure that all stakeholders are capable of fulfilling their respective roles. The local community is united in promoting activities to achieve their goals, which give youth hope for the future and realize the vision of creating a village that is friendly to people, society, and the environment.
人が生きていくために一番何が大切かというと、やっぱり なんていうか幸せかどうかっていうのと、この仕事やりがいがあるかどうかって言うんですよ。やりがいがあるかどうかっていうのは認めてほしいとかなんですよ。そうしたら誰に認めてほしいかというと、この地域に認めてほしいわけ。そうすると漁業をしながらもこの地域に何かを貢献してる。だから一つは幸せというのと、一つは役割が果たせる人間作りというわけ。この役割が果たすことによって地域から褒められるんですよね。人間褒められると嬉しいそういう単純なんですよ。楽しい、幸せ感じると。
To further expand these initiatives, Onna Village, together with the Mozuku seaweed processing industry, has concluded cooperation agreements with consumer cooperatives all over Japan to support the coral reef restoration project. A part of the Mozuku seaweed sales revenues has been used to establish the Coral Reef Restoration Mozuku Fund to assist the efforts of local fishers.
やっぱり生産者がこう日々とってるそのモズクを作ってる環境がやっぱりちゃんとしてないと、やっぱり基本的にいいものができないというのはずっとこう生産者と深く関わってやっていきますと非常によく分かってくるわけですね。
Mr. Takeuchi Amane operates a Mozuku seaweed processing business. Through trading in farmed Mozuku, he has developed a long association with the Onna Village Fisheries Cooperative. He has worked hard to establish the Mozuku Fund.
里海っていうのは、私は環境として何とか保ちたいということであるんですけど、資源なんですね。それ観光の資源ですし、今言いましたようにモズクの生産のベースになっていくものです。でこれはもうよく考えていますと、私も事業者として恩恵を被ってるんですが、消費者もその資源の恩恵を被って生活の一部にそれを取り入れているわけですね。要はここに来てボランティアしていただくっていうのは大変ハードルが高いんですけど、理解してその商品を利用していただくこともそれをサンゴを支える大きな力になるっていうのは、その利用する人からするととっても参加しやすい一つの活動の一つになるんです。でまたそれを受け止めた生産者がよりいいもの、美味しいものを作りたいというモチベーションにもそれがつながる。だから両者がお互いを支える関係性がそこでできる。それはもう距離じゃなくて関係性の問題。だから関係人口をたくさん作っていくことがとっても大事で、それはここは特殊な話ではなくて、捉え方によってどこでもできる話。
These efforts resulted in the formation of the Coral Forest Cooperative Committee. It has expanded to 27 prefectures around Japan, with the participation of 29 consumer cooperatives and about 5 million consumers. With the support of the Mozuku Fund that gained the participation of many consumers, coral coverage, which had fallen to less than 10% at one point in the whole of the Onna Village area, has now recovered to about 50% coverage in some waters. In 2018, Onna Village declared itself the Village of Coral, targeting sustainable development in concert with agriculture, fisheries, tourism, and social education, and with a focus on coral conservation and restoration. It was also selected by the central government's Cabinet Office as a model city actively working to achieve the SDGs. With the involvement of many people who fulfilled their respective roles, Onna Village has made Satoumi into the community's shared value. The village offers practical approaches to Satoumi co-creation that aim for sustainable development while maintaining a plentiful, beautiful natural environment and regional uniqueness.
沖縄の海ほど人と海が近いところないんですよね。ここの海はある意味で世界で誇れる海にならないかなと思ってるんですね。まだなってるかどうか分かんないけど、なったら楽しいだろうなという。やっぱり豊かな海ですね。
For example, the things we eat, the things we used, will that affect our Satoumi, our coastal seas? And how is that going to impact the communities that lived near to the coastal areas? If everybody can take a few moments every day to think about the sea, I think that's my biggest goal achieved. And that, I think, is Satoumi in itself.
Satoumi aims for harmonious coexistence, not a separation of nature and people. The Satoumi concept is compatible with the coastal resource management and environmental conservation efforts being undertaken around the world. It is a broad framework that encompasses all such efforts. The hope is that the Satoumi concept will be practiced in other parts of the world as an effective approach that allows people to coexist with nature.